Sondra D. Welcome to my first video. Today we're going to be learning about creating basic backgrounds with Distress ink pads. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Distress Basics, where we're going to learn how to create backgrounds with a couple of different techniques. The first thing you're going to need is a non-stick craft sheet, which is what this is right here. You get them and they're all rolled up. They're perfect not only for protecting your work surface, but also for some of the techniques we're going to use. They're really easy to clean up. With most inks, all you need to do is spray a little bit of water from a mini mister or other sprayer and use a cloth to clean up. If you do, though, get acrylic paint, for example, on it, or something thicker that sticks a little bit, all you have to do is use a craft scraper and scrape up that mess. So they're great. The other thing I always have on hand are some cloths. I just get these at the dollar store, and it saves on paper towels. I'd be going through a ton of paper towels if I use paper towels all the time. So I just have a bunch of these rags that I just throw into the wash every once in a while when they start getting inked up a little bit too much. The other thing is the mini mister. Great for putting water and also inks in. But today what we're going to be using it for is just to spray water. And the main important thing is the ink blending tool and foam. They're perfect for mess-free application of ink. The foam pads are replaceable, so you can change these out as you use different colors. I don't like to do that because I don't like messy fingers. So I have a lot of these applicators, and what I've done is I've labeled them. Like, see, you'll see this one says light brown and this one says dark brown. By the way, all my stuff has initials on it. I teach classes, so it's important to make sure I know what stuff's mine. If you're ever attending classes or crafting with other people, it's good to keep your initials on things so things don't get messed up. So that was just a side note. So in any event, I do mark different applicators with different colors. So I have light brown, medium brown, and dark brown and black. I also have one for my greens, my purples, my blues, pinks, reds, yellow, and orange. And that comes in handy because then I'm not having to constantly, like I already mentioned, replace these all the time. By the way, just a quick tip. If your Velcro ever comes loose from the base, you can just take a staple gun and staple it right back on there and it will stay, and you can keep putting foam back onto the applicator. So that's just a handy tip that I thought I would mention. Now the main thing that we're going to be working with today are the Distress inks, and they come in a ton of fun colors. Some people thought that they only came in browns and really dark colors, but that's not true. There's all sorts of fun colors, like this is tumbled glass, picked raspberry, squeezed lemonade. So there's tons of fun colors, as well as some of the browns and blacks that you're used to seeing that create great distressed aged look. The nice thing about these are that the ink is translucent. It's a dye ink, so they're perfect for blending and layering. Plus the Distress inks react to water, which can be really fun to get some really cool effects. You don't need to store these pads upside down. They're perfectly fine just like this. If they ever get a little dry, I first recommend trying the ink refresher. All you have to do is spray it on the pad, and oftentimes your pad will come back to life. This ink refresher works great for pigment and dye-based inks, and they also works good for water-based markers. If you do need to re-ink, all you need is one dropper full from the Distress re-inker, and this one happens to need a little bit of more ink, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you. You just want to put the ink down onto the pad. Again, you only need one dropper full, and the best way to distribute it throughout the pad is just to take your craft scraper and scrape it along, and then you'll get a nice even layer of ink that will soak in for you. Distress ink works great on a lot of different surfaces, not just paper as you would think, and not just matte paper. You can use it on glossy paper, paper mache, mulberry paper, polymer clay, raw leather, fibers, and even canvas. So the possibilities are endless with these fun inks. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is to do some basic blending with the blending tool. Here's a tag I'm going to be demonstrating on. First, I'm going to start with the lightest color that I want on the tag. So in this case, it's the antique linen. And I'm going to ink up the foam applicator. And you might notice I'm using the base. I get a better control over the application of the ink if I grab the base instead of the handle. The handle makes it a little more wobbly in my opinion, so you might give that a try. And I'm going to start, like I said, with the lightest color first. And I'm going to start by putting the ink applicator directly on to the craft sheet, and I'm going to start in circular motions and what I call sneaking up on the actual tag. So we're sneaking up on the actual tag to get the coverage. And the harder you press down, the more ink coverage you're going to get. So you can get a real gradation in color just by using one color if you do your application lighter and then press harder in some areas. Then I'm going to go with my next darkest color, which in this case I'm using Vintage Photo, and I'm going to just follow up with Vintage Photo around the edges to get it a little bit darker. So it just creates more visual interest when you have multiple colors on your tag. Then next what I could do is add a little bit of black just around the edges, and then it gives it a real vintage looking distress look. So there's the plain tag that we started with, and there's one that's been inked with the blending tool using antique linen, Vintage Photo, and black soot. You can also use this technique on pattern paper. So for example, you might have some old scrapbook paper that you don't like so much anymore. This was a piece I had that I thought was a little bit boring for my current taste. So I just used some antique linen and some Vintage Photo and inked around the edges, and it gives it a totally different look, which I like this one a lot better. The other thing I like to use it on is tissue tape. Tim Holtz has all these amazing tapes that are really fun to use, and I like to change the color of them. So the easiest thing to do is just tear off some of it and stick it right on the craft sheet and then apply the color. In this case, I'm going to use weathered wood, and I'm just going to apply the weathered wood, which is kind of a blue color, right onto the tissue tape to give it a completely different look. So there's another thing you can do using that basic blending technique. Here it was on a tag, and here it is on some tissue tape.